Every school child learns about the endless trenches of the Western Front.
Almost nobody learns about the small nation that won the very first battle of the First World War, then lost nearly a quarter of its entire population by the time the guns fell silent. That nation was Serbia. Today, we tell its forgotten, heroic and heartbreaking story. We'll answer 5 big questions. How did a poorly equipped peasant army repeatedly humiliate the mighty Austro-Hungarian Empire in 1914? What deadly plague nearly wiped Serbia off the map? What was the nightmarish Albanian Golgotha? How did Serbia fight its way back to victory and create a new state? And what was the true human cost of it all? The Austro-Hungarian High Command expected to crush Serbia in a matter of weeks. They couldn't have been more mistaken. The Serbian army was a conscripted peasant force, critically under-equipped. Modern rifles were in chronic short supply, and a significant number of soldiers were forced to rely on repurposed gear or captured enemy material. Heavy transport depended almost entirely on horse-drawn carts and ox wagons. Yet what the Serbs lacked in material, they possessed in something far harder to manufacture: recent combat experience from 2 Balkan Wars, intimate knowledge of their rugged homeland, and an extraordinary unit cohesion born of men fighting alongside their own fathers, brothers and neighbors from the same villages. Serbian officers were known for eating with their men and fighting directly in the line, a style of command that bred fierce personal loyalty in return. When Austrian General Oskar Potiorek launched the first invasion in mid-August 1914, the Serbian commander, Field Marshal Radomir Putnik, lured the invaders into difficult terrain around Mount Cer and struck back ferociously. The Austro-Hungarian advance collapsed entirely. Thousands of imperial soldiers fled towards the border in panic, many drowning in the Drina River as they fled. By the 24th of August, Serbia had secured the first Allied victory of the entire First World War. 2 more invasions followed. The third in November was the most dangerous. An estimated 450,000 Austro-Hungarian troops pushed the freezing, exhausted Serbs into retreat along a 150-kilometer front. Belgrade fell on the 2nd of December. The international press began writing Serbia's obituary. Then General Živojin Mišić launched a sweeping counteroffensive timed to coincide with the crucial shipment of French artillery shells that had just reached the starving Serbian guns. The overstretched Austro-Hungarian lines shattered. By the 15th of December, Belgrade had been retaken and every enemy soldier expelled from Serbian soil. One of the most remarkable reversals of the entire war, the one achieved at a cost of over 130,000 Serbian casualties at Kolubara alone. General Potiorek was dismissed in disgrace. Mišić was promoted to Field Marshal. Victory in 1914 came at a catastrophic price beyond the battlefield. The fighting had generated a vast refugee crisis, and approximately 60,000 Austro-Hungarian prisoners of war were crammed into overcrowded, under-sanitized towns already swollen with displaced civilians. The inevitable result was an epidemic. Typhus swept through Serbia in early 1915 with terrifying speed. At its height, over 100,000 people were simultaneously infected. The entire country possessed only 360 trained doctors to manage both the sick and the wounded. International medical missions poured in from Britain, America and Russia, many volunteers dying of the disease themselves. The outbreak was eventually halted through systematic delousing and an ingenious sterilization device known as the Serbian barrel, developed by British military doctor William Hunter, which used steam heat to kill the body lice carrying the infection. The epidemic was contained by June 1915, but the greatest blow to Serbia was still to come. In October 1915, everything changed. Germany, Austro-Hungary and the newly allied Bulgaria launched a coordinated three-sided invasion. Encircled and vastly outnumbered, the Serbian army faced a stark choice: surrender or retreat across the mountains. They chose the mountains. An estimated 400,000 soldiers, civilians, prisoners of war, and even the elderly King Peter himself set out through the freezing Albanian highlands in November 1915. What followed entered Serbian national memory as the Albanian Golgotha. Blizzards, starvation, hostile mountain tribesmen, and disease killed in their tens of thousands. Around 23,000 young conscript boys, ordered to join the march specifically to preserve Serbia's future military capacity, perished within a single month. Roughly 47,000 Austro-Hungarian prisoners of war, forced marched alongside their captors, also died during the crossing. Of the 400,000 who set out, only around 120,000 soldiers and 60,000 civilians survived to reach the Adriatic coast. Allied ships evacuated them primarily to the Greek island of Corfu, quickly dubbed the Island of Salvation. But even there, thousands more would die. On Corfu, the shattered Serbian army was rebuilt from nothing. The French re-equipped them entirely. New rifles, new uniforms, and French Adrian helmets stamped with the Serbian national crest. By 1916, this reconstituted force was deployed to the Salonika front in Greece, where it would spend 2 grinding years in the trenches of the Macedonian mountains, alongside British, French, and Greek allied forces. Back home, the occupation was brutal. Austro-Hungary administered the north and west, imposing martial law, banning the Cyrillic alphabet, confiscating printing presses, dissolving schools, and sending thousands of dissidents to internment camps. A calculated campaign to erase Serbian cultural identity. The Bulgarian zone in the east and south was harsher still, characterized by massacres, forced labor, mass deportations, and systematic atrocities that contemporary Allied investigators documented as violations of the Hague Conventions. The occupied population did not submit quietly. In February 1917, Serbian guerrilla commanders sparked the Toplica Uprising, one of the largest and most sustained armed rebellions against occupation anywhere in wartime Europe. The rebels briefly liberated wide areas of the Toplica district before overwhelming Austro-Bulgarian forces crushed the revolt. The reprisals were savage. Hundreds executed, villages burned, and over 80,000 Serbs deported to internment camps. While civilians endured the occupation, the exiled government on Corfu was laying the diplomatic foundations for something entirely new. In July 1917, Serbian Prime Minister Mišić and representatives of exiled South Slav politicians signed the Corfu Declaration, a formal blueprint for the post-war unification of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes into a single sovereign state. The vision of Yugoslavia was taking shape. The decisive military blow fell in September 1918. At the Battle of Dobrapolje, Serbian and French mountain troops shattered the Bulgarian lines across terrain considered virtually impassable. It was the breakthrough the Salonika front had spent 2 years attempting. Bulgaria collapsed and signed an armistice within a fortnight. The combined Allied armies, Serbian, French, British and Greek, surged northwards, liberating Serbia's occupied cities and crossing into Austro-Hungarian territory. The Habsburg Empire struck from the south at precisely the moment its internal coherence was already failing, disintegrated. On the 1st of December 1918, the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes was proclaimed in Belgrade, the state that would later bear the name Yugoslavia. Serbia emerged from the First World War victorious. It had achieved maximum political and territorial objectives, and it had been very nearly annihilated in the process. Serbia lost somewhere between 1 and 1.25 million people, roughly 20 to 28% of its entire pre-war population. Male casualties were particularly devastating, with some estimates suggesting the loss of more than half the country's men of fighting age. The nation, whose internal politics had sparked the First World War, was also among those most utterly consumed by it. That it survived at all, that it fought back from invasion, plague, and a winter retreat through the mountains that killed tens of thousands, remains one of the most extraordinary testimonies to human endurance in the entire history of the conflict. Until next time.